Hello, Zero Books readers. It's me again. And this week I want to talk to you about a social illness that, if you're on the left, you're probably stricken with.
I've always had this sort of theory, which is like all roads lead to narcissism. And if you can hop on the line on Twitter and say, what happened to Cecil the Lion is a tragedy and it should never happen again and it's not going to happen on my watch or something, then you get to just send out to the heavens that you're a virtuous person. So I think a lot of it is narcissism that's being disguised as some sort of, caring out loud, like caring from the mountaintops. Like I was talking to my wife the other day, because she's like, what's with everybody and their stupid tweets about, I weep for the kids on the border and stuff like that. And it's like, it's fine to be upset about kids on the border, but then go down to the border or write a check to one of the many charitable institutions that are helping those kids on the border. But you don't need to send it. I don't need to know how you feel about what's going on at the border or Cecil Line or anything else. And I was like,
It's a ubiquitous complaint about liberals and the left, a thoughtless cliche hurled by alt-right dweebs, white middle-aged YouTube opportunists, and probably your nan, if you're British, or your uncle, if you're American. Apparently, if you say that you're upset about how, say, the refugees at the border are being treated, if you tweet about the horror show, if you point out that many children still haven't been reunited with their families, you're virtue signaling. It couldn't be that you actually care about this issue. It couldn't be that you want to communicate with people to inform as many people as you can about what's going on. No. You're just trying to impress your so-called friends, right? Well, actually, according to Robin Hanson and Kevin Simler, that is right. Hanson is an economist at George Mason University, and Simler is a freelance computer programmer. In their new book, The Elephant in the Brain, Hidden Motives in Everyday Life, they argue that it's not just leftists who are self-interested hypocrites. It's not just political tweets or ranting Facebook posts that should be held in suspicion, but all human conversations, because they're all forms of virtue signaling.
But your premise is that people spend more time than they realize showing off, and often they're not aware that something they're doing is in effect showing off, and that's the, in some sense, actual motivation.
And so often people are unaware, in part so they can plausibly deny that that's what they're doing. Our alternative explanation is that the main motivation you have in politics is to show your side that you're loyal to them. You have multiple sides, but you're mainly focused on being with your side. So that directly explains why you want people around you who are on your side, because being associated with the others is being disloyal. It also explains why you're not that interested in the evidence or that interested in how decisive your votes are or actual policy. You're less interested in the actual effect on policy than convincing people around them that you're loyal to their side.
It must be something psychological.
The notion that people aren't aware of their real motives, and that even when they convince themselves they're acting altruistically, they're mostly motivated by pure animal self-interest, is hardly new. It's one of Freud's central insights. Even our dreams and nightmares are, according to Freud, disguised wish fulfillment fantasies wherein we realize our most socially unacceptable desires.
What is this force between us two that makes me gravitate to you?
Freud compares the conscious mind in the book I'm talking about now. He compares the conscious mind to a garrison, a captured tiny garrison in an immense city, the city of Rome, with all its layers of history, all its archaic barbarisms, all its hidden avenues covered over by civilization after civilization. And the conscious, that's our mind, that whole thing. But the conscious part of it is that one garrison that's clear, that sort of holds out in this captured city. A magnificent metaphor for all of the surrounding motives, motivations, motifs, desires that drive us, that are not philosophical, that cannot, even if we talk to our therapist a long time, all be brought up at once.
In their book, Hansen and Simler suggest that we should recognize our tendency for self-deception, and once we do, our task should become to step back and reflect on our brain's willingness to distort things for our own benefit. This advice is both entirely spot on and incredibly naive. If we're always acting out of self-interest rather than altruism, if we almost never put ourselves in the service of something we believe to be more important than our own self-gratification, then we're very unlikely to engage in critical self-reflection. In fact, we're only likely to do that when such an activity is in our interest. Of course, this is Hansen and Simler's whole point. They're suggesting that we need to take people's greedy, self-gratifying, antisocial tendencies into account and set up workplaces, political projects, and personal relationships so that people have some strong incentives to behave well. A highly intellectual culture that rewards self-criticism and reflection with social prestige should be maintained if we want to pursue the truth as much as possible.
Security?
I am Jack's smirking revenge.
What the hell are you doing?
That hurt.
If we're trying to transform society, then creating better social relations, overcoming miscommunication, and even our darker motives, then these observations of Hansen and Simler don't go far enough. Hansen and Simler seem mostly ignorant of the left-oriented theorists who have trod over this ground before them, and given that their own political aim is to reform the existing institutions in order to make them more effective in controlling people, it's not surprising that they don't consider situations wherein aligning self-interest with political or social goals might be impossible. In his book Capitalist Realism, the late Mark Fisher quoted political theorist Wendy Brown, quote, "Even Plato recognized the compatibility between individual choice and political domination, and depicted democratic subjects who are available to political tyranny or authoritarianism precisely because they are absorbed in a province of choice and need satisfaction that they mistake for freedom."
But then again, that's part of the pleasure principle of mass culture, is it does just the opposite. It takes socially uncomfortable memories and takes them out of that clear garrison and throws them into the wasteland around the city. Great moments of rebellion like the populist movement around the turn of the century, the Knights of Labor and so on. It's the goal of a mass culture to bury that. It's a goal of mass culture to take that part of a culture where we've begun to reflect and understand and reverse it and make it unconscious. So that's the reason the discourse of Freud is important.
The point of this video is simple. I believe that the left needs to take up this critique of human nature from Hansen and Simler. We on the left need to not only consider but accept that we often don't know what our true motivations are, and that often enough, our true motivations are the opposite of what we think they are or want them to be. For instance, quite a lot of what goes on in the name of radical politics is, in reality, just various attempts to hold on to the present as it is. A lot of what we are told is about change we can believe in is really about making sure we don't believe in change. Even more, a lot of what we do online is about managing and elevating our reputations. However, as leftists, we should also recognize that our institutions and social practices are also deceptive. The aim, for instance, of capitalist production is not to fill the world with beautiful and wondrous things, but to reproduce and expand the level of exploitation suffered by the working classes. And the aim of a great deal of our culture is to suppress our understanding of this real motive and real aim.
peut plus être rétablie. La réalité, considérée partiellement, se déploie dans sa propre unité générale en tant que pseudo-monde à part, objet de la seule contemplation. La spécialisation des images du monde se retrouve, accomplie, dans le monde de l'image autonomisée, où le mensonger s'est menti à lui-même.